Welcome back to another video, and today I want to discuss for Lamar Jackson. Uh, Originally, I wanted to do for Derek Carr. I do have that video coming out soon. I have everything ready, but I wanted to do Lamar Jackson first, especially with the news that I'm getting a new offensive coordinator from Georgia, and more importantly, the news that the Baltimore Ravens told them, saying that they do not plan on Lamar being a guarantee that he will be the quarterback next year. I thought it was pretty interesting. I know it goes for anybody really that it's not a guarantee for anybody to be there. I know with the whole situation with Lamar, it's just, it's even way before the coordinator got there, it's been in question, especially going into last offseason, question marks of whether he is going to be with the team. I know they couldn't come to an agreement before week one on a contract. He didn't want to discuss it throughout the whole season, and now with the offseason being here, again, it's gonna be in a discussion. But I just want to quickly point out, I have my notes going off of like the general, general stats at first, and we'll kind of break down season by seasons, team wise how they did, and then his stats for that. So going to this one, he's gonna be before going to that, he's gonna be a top candidate for anyone. I know for the score, they put out their top 50 free agents. They did have Lamar at number one. Now, granted, it's there's no way he's gonna be a free agent whatsoever. They're gonna trade him if it comes down to it. But for free agent wise, they had him at number one, and he should be. He's probably one of the best quarterbacks ever to be, in his prime, the elite talent he is at that position to be available, regardless of free agency or trade. And on top of that, too, is his age, 26 years old. Still has a long way to go if he can change how he plays. If he keeps doing like the scheme of constantly running around and being the mobile quarterback he is, you always got comparisons about Michael Vick, and they were right about it. And to most, even Vic himself admitted that he is better than him. He is a better version of Michael Vick. And he has won an MVP in 2019. He has carried his team with such little talent around him. But going to it, he's been there for 5 seasons. Drafted in 2018, he was the 32nd overall pick. How he fell that far, I don't know. If he did a redraft, no doubt he'll be a top 3 pick easily. For his career, he has 12,209 passing yards, 101 touchdowns, 38 interceptions, a 63.7 completion percentage, and a 59.1 QBR. On the other side for rushing, of course, I have the stats split up for rushing too. For Carr, in the other video, I just have passing because that's what he mainly is. But for Lamar, you really have to factor in his running ability. He has 4,437 rushing yards, 24 touchdowns. So definitely a dual threat, no doubt. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, 2019 and 2021. Though I will argue that, just like the Tyler Huntley situation this year, he didn't deserve it. I think, he was part of the original 3 that made it in. And if I'm not mistaken, it was, I don't know the third. It was Mahomes, Lamar, and maybe Burrow. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been Burrow. It was definitely someone else. But I know Allen didn't make it in the first original 3, and Lamar Jackson had a horrible season that year. How he made it in 2021, it was in the NFC. You had the same way too, where Kyler made it over Matthew Stafford. But in 2021, I don't know how he made it into the Pro Bowl. I thought he had, statistically, he had a horrible season. He was also injured for almost half the season. So it's, definitely surprising. But either way, you have to give it to the guy. He did make 2 Pro Bowls. So team-wise, in 2018, when he first got drafted, they went 10-6 in total. But he didn't start until the last 7 games of the season when Joe Flacco was benched from. He went 6-1, amazing. First, start right off the gate, but he did fall apart. Not saying, and I kind of discredit for any rookie quarterback in their first, or any quarterback making their first career playoff game. I kind of usually throw that out because it's new to everybody. For the most part, most quarterbacks, or I shouldn't say most, but a good majority of them do struggle in their first time starting. but he definitely got exposed in that rookie season, at least. They lost in the wild card round 23-17 to the Chargers. It was way, don't let the score fool you with that. The score was worse than that at one point in the game. I think at one point it was maybe like 23-3 or 23-10, but it wasn't that close the way it shows. So in 2014, this was his, or not 2019, this was his breakout year. This was his MVP year where he took the league by storm. They went 14-2. They were the number one seed in the AFC. 13-2. When he played, he sat out in the final game. Harbaugh did it for most of them. He got in the controversy with resting a lot of the starters for 2 weeks with week 17 and then the wild card. But no doubt he earned the MVP. He was unbelievable. He was the best quarterback, no doubt, in that year. And you're gonna start seeing a trend with this. This is kind of the other half of the debate of for his contract is his playoff resume. So he number one seed. They're in Baltimore. Here comes the wild card. Tennessee Titans. They get blown out by Tennessee, 28-12, and shocked. Everyone is shocked. They were no doubt one of the top teams to make the Super Bowl, to win it. Earlier that year, they had early in the year they won against Kansas City. It was a very close game, very exciting. People were kind of hoping they would get a rematch of that at some point, and sadly it didn't work out. But if no doubt if they did, it would have been a rematch because Tennessee ended up going to Kansas City to play in the AFC Championship game. Got blown out, so it would have been exciting to see those two go at it again. Who knows? There would have been a good chance Baltimore would have made the Super Bowl. They would have had to eventually face the 49ers. I don't know what happened after that, but no doubt it's definitely a tough thing to see as a Ravens fan. 14-2, thinking it's your season, and then getting falling apart, being one and done. So in 2020, 11-5, 11-4 as a starter. He sat out the final game again. Lost in divisional round to the Bills, 17-3. He had crucial pick six. They were in our reds. For us, they were towards the red zone. I think they were inside the 10, around the 10-yard line, and he throws a pick in the end zone. Our defender runs it back all the way for a touchdown. It was Johnson that picked him off, and that basically sealed the game. He did get knocked out under the third quarter with a concussion. Huntley came in, tried to bring the team back. He almost did. He had a couple good throws in that too, and that was that was my first, probably for most everybody, was the first time we saw Tyler Huntley come out and play. He didn't play too bad, and it was a tough situation going into a playoff or in a playoff game with less than a quarter left to bring his team back, and it was possible. They were only down by 14, so it's not like it was insane. I mean, for me, I'm always worried in every game, so definitely, even though Huntley was out there, I was worried that he could have brought the team back and won. Oh. A little too fast on that. My apologies. So in 2021, this is where it starts to really take downhill a little, and this is where most of the controversy comes in with this. So in 2021, the Ravens were 8-9. They missed the playoffs. Lamar was 7-5 as a starter, and he got hurt towards the end. He missed 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the last 6 games. Tyler Huntley came in, didn't do too much, went 8-9, and missed the playoffs with that. Then for this season, it went 10-7. Again, same story. Lamar was 8-4, better record than last year as a starter, but once again got hurt. Was out for the rest of the year. Could have had a chance to come back in the wild card game, but this is where more of the controversy comes in with the contract. Obviously there's speculation with that. First Harbaugh said that it wasn't a major injury. He would be able to come back in maybe, a week or two, and then it went on and on and on, and before you know it, it's well past a month. We're at the wild card game against the Bengals. People thought that he was going to play. He sat out mostly because of the contract. I truly believe if he did have that guaranteed contract that he wanted, he would have been out there because his life is his life would be secure. His future would. If he had the guaranteed contract that he was asking for, he would have stepped on that field. Regardless if it made the injury worse, he's guaranteed. But he didn't play. And I'm pretty sure he wasn't even at the game with a team whatsoever. But Tyler Huntley had to come in, and he did a pretty good job until the horrible decision call by Greg Roman to try and do a QB sneak, having Huntley try and jump over the top a yard and a half away from the end zone. So someone hits the ball out, they grab it, and they run it in for a touchdown, and that basically sealed the game there. They lose in the wild card round 24-17 to the Bengals, and once again Lamar did not play in that. So right off of there, you look at his playoff record. I didn't mention, in 2020 he did win the wild. Of course, he won the wild card game against Tennessee. So his playoff record is 1-3. Not too great for a quarterback that many, if you watch any sports shows, that they really put him out. They really put him up there high. They believe he is an elite quarterback. He is a top 10 quarterback. Some probably even go far as to say maybe he's a top 5 quarterback. So definitely high regards for him. But in the playoffs, it doesn't show, and he missed this game. And I truly believe if he was fully healthy for this game, they would have beaten the Bengals. I truly believe that the defense really held the Bengals in check. All you needed was that playmaker at quarterback, and Tyler Huntley did his job. He did what he could, but again, it was really a bad play call at the goal line that really sealed the deal. But again, I truly believe if Lamar was fully healthy playing that game, the Ravens would have moved on. How far they would have went, I don't know. I'm not sure how. Offhand, I don't know how the seeding would have worked if the Ravens won. I don't know if they would have came to Buffalo or they would have to go to Jackson or Kansas. Actually, no, sorry. If Baltimore won, they have to go to Kansas City because I'm pretty sure after that, if they would have won, then we would have to face Jacksonville. So yeah, if Lamar was in that game and they won, they would have to go to KC. I doubt they would beat KC, so they probably would lose in the divisional round. But hey, it would give Lamar another win in his postseason career. So, looking at stats again, we're gonna go back and forth. So in 2018, in his 7 games, he just had over 1,200 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He also had 695 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. So for the heads up for the car one, I have some of these highlighted. For the yellow is career highs. The orange are career lows or career worsts. For the green, it's kind of obvious because he only played 7 games that year and he was a rookie. His worst stats are going to be all in the rookie. His career lows are all going to be in his rookie year. So I kind of wanted to throw that out. I mean, yes, if you did want to count that in your minds, yes, that his career worst was really almost his entire rookie season, except for rushing touchdowns. But if you're excluding that, for most part, all his career highs was in his MVP year. We're gonna get to that. This is what got him the MVP right here. He had 3,127 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He also had 1,200 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. He broke the record that year for most rushing yards by a quarterback, passing Michael Vick, and it definitely showed, statistically and the team stats or team record, he was dominant. Even watching him, he was unbelievable. He was just a new style that teams couldn't figure out. And though, again, especially for the passing side, because going to the draft, people didn't think he could throw the football consistently, accurately, and he showed that. 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's unbelievable. That is. And he had, I believe, that year 2 or 3. No, I should say he had for sure. He had 2 perfect passer rating. 100 or for people who don't know, that's 150 plus for a perfect passer rating. He did that twice. Pretty sure he ties Ben Roethlisberger for that for 1 season. That's unbelievable for a guy who is considered not to be consistent throwing the football, not accurate. You even had some people out there that Bill Polian was obviously the biggest one, where he said they should move to wide receiver. And that's where people remember in the combine, he refused to run with a 40-yard dash because he didn't want to feed into that narrative of he should switch to wide receiver or running back or whatever that they wanted, wherever they wanted him to switch to. And in 2019, he definitely showed everybody that he is an elite quarterback. He can play the position consistently. And here's the problem. This is where it starts to kind of tamper down a little. It starts where it's starting to go into decline, and you're going to see this now In 2020, he had 2,757 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He also had just over 1,000 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. So rushing wise, basically the same. Still dominant. Second straight 1,000-yard rushing season for a quarterback. Insane. But for passing yards, definitely tapered off a little. Again, with the touchdowns, 10 less touchdowns. That's a huge difference. And he also had 3 more interceptions. So a little bit concerning. Definitely still great. I think overall still great, but not the MVP level. So definitely took a decline on that end in 2021. And this is where the real kind of debate comes in with the injuries. He had 2,882 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He had 767 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. This was the second Pro Bowl that I really had a problem with, and it shows stat wise right here. I don't know how a quarterback that got into the Pro Bowl originally as a top 3 selection, not as a guy as an alternate, was the original top 3 pick for the AFC, has 16 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. If I didn't show you Lamar Jackson's name on that, and I just showed you that as a quarterback that made the Pro Bowl, I guarantee you the vast majority of people, 90% of the people, would say he's not a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. He only got in solely because of his name, and that's kind of the sad part is for the Pro Bowl is it is kind of just a name based way to get in essentially. Just look at this year. Speaking of Baltimore, Tyler Huntley. How did Tyler Huntley get into the Pro Bowl? There's so much more qualified quarterbacks in AFC that should have made it in. Huntley should not. I know he did well in the skills competition and also in the flag football, but he should have not made it in regardless. And this is the problem I have with sometimes with the Pro Bowl is it's just based on name base. I really do believe Allen, and I apologize earlier, Burrow did not make that year. I thought he did. He did not. Herbert and Allen should have made it in there. Lamar Jackson shouldn't. How he got in there, I'll never know. I'll never know sometimes with the voting, but I guess you have to give him credit. He made it in, regardless of how I feel or how anyone feels about if he deserved it or not. So definitely 2021, he was out. He missed 6 games, but it showed that he's really taken a decline now. If you go back 2 years prior, an MVP level, probably the best quarterback that year, arguably, aside from Mahomes, who eventually went on to win the Super Bowl. But definitely concerning, no doubt. Definitely starting to take the decline, and you're starting to see that kind of record-wise. So in 2019, they had 14 wins. 2020, they had 11 wins. 2021, they had 8 wins. So definitely, worrisome, no doubt with that, along with the injuries. Now this is the first major injury, missing 6 games. And then going to this year, he had 2,224 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He had 764 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. And that first passing yards this year was his career worst. And going to last year, the year prior, I said 2021, his touchdowns and interceptions, that was career worst for both of them. My bad. I don't know why it keeps jumping so fast. So I'm kind of looking at the screen. It just kind of jumps from one page to another. So for 2022, record-wise did better, partially due with Huntley. Huntley kind of had to finish the rest of the season, got on the wild card. By the time he got hurt, by the time he was hurt in that the game against Denver, they were kind of already in good position to make the playoffs already, as opposed to as the year before. So it didn't hurt too much. Huntley had to win just a few more games, got in, secured a playoff spot, and then almost got the upset there in Cincinnati. But stat wise, definitely worrisome, and obviously team wise, definitely worrisome. The stats aren't he hasn't been living up to the 2019 season. Not to say that he's a bust. He's still an elite quarterback, no doubt. Talent wise, he is still one of the best quarterbacks out there, no doubt he is. But he's not living up to the 2019 season. Is that 100% his fault? I don't. And on the screen now, I have the draft. I'm also recording my laptop too, so obviously if I do upload this one, you'll see it on here. So I just wanted to make a quick list on the draft picks from 2018 to now of what just the first round of what they've done. So in 2018, and obviously we know the 32nd overall pick they took Lamar, but prior to that, in the 25th overall pick they took tight end Hayden Hurst. Not bad. He's been a decent tight end in the NFL. The problem is he's not on the team. He's not on the team anymore. They traded away in 2020, so he's basically useless. Didn't do too much with Lamar and took away a weapon from. Obviously, thankfully they got Mark Andrews, a much better tight end, top 3 tight end in the NFL. So definitely got lucky with that. In 2019, Marquise Brown, probably the best receiver he's had in his entire career. He's gone. They just traded him this past offseason. Problem is too they have him as the number 1 receiver. I don't view him as a number 1. He's an amazing number 2, but definitely not a number 1 receiver. And I think that did kind of hurt him in there because it forced him to be the number 1. So they don't really put too much stock in receiver via free agency, trade, draft. So it's definitely it didn't pan out there. Not so that he's not a horrible receiver. He has had 1,000-yard season last year, but it just hasn't worked out. I know there was a controversy too of just the scheme or the play, the system offensively the system not being friendly towards receivers, not getting the targets, the receptions on a run-based offense. Thankfully for Lamar and probably for a lot of Baltimore fans, Greg Roman is gone. As I mentioned earlier, got a new offensive coordinator, so I'm happy for that. I think he should have got fired. A season ago, he won Assistant Coach of the Year in 2019. He was the best. He was definitely a big help for Lamar in his MVP win. But teams figure out fast. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect to have that high success. Teams are going to have enough tape on you. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to figure out how to stop that. And since then, I think teams have really now found a way to stop that. In 2019, it was kind of a new idea, new way to run the offense. No one knew how to stop it, and it got him the first seed, MVP, all that. But after that, when teams had enough film and saw what they needed to do and make the adjustments, you really saw the offense kind of taper off from them because they don't have the elite playmakers that other teams do, and essentially kind of just hoping riding on the running game and Lamar. Problem is too, last few years the running backs, J.K. Dobbins and them have been hurt, so it's been mostly Lamar. And at that point, you keep taking extra hits, and it's shown the last 2 years that he has been injured as well. So overall, the offense is very flawed now, as opposed to it was in 2019. So in 2018, 2019, they did go offense number 1, but both those guys are gone, so it doesn't help Lamar anymore now. 2020, they took a linebacker, Patrick Queen. Doesn't help Lamar. Obviously, it helps him on the team overall, but offensively does not. In 2021, they got Rashad Bateman, and I have on here as a bust. I'm not so far in 2 years. He's injury prone. He hasn't lived up to the potential. Again, it's a huge swing and a miss, and it's kind of been consistent with the other 2 offensive weapons. It's either it just hasn't worked out, or they just are just bust. For going back to Hayden Hurst, I think he's a decent tight end. He did have a good year with the Bengals, but hasn't lived up to the first round pick. Marquise Brown, I still do believe he is a first round talent, and I think for the 25th overall pick, it's a pretty solid spot for a talent like Marquise Brown. I just don't think it just fits into the system that they wanted to, especially just making him the first number 1 receiver. I don't think that's right. What they have in Arizona with someone like a DeAndre Hopkins to be the number 1, I think that fits perfectly for Marquise Brown. But to be the number 1, no. Rashad Bateman again. This year he was hurt, hasn't helped too much for Lamar, and obviously the 30th overall pick they won Dafe, defensive end from Penn State, and then for this year they go offense, but offensive line. Obviously it helps no doubt for protection, but it's not a playmaker. And then the 14th overall pick. The highest pick they've had since Lamar era is one safety, Kyle Hamilton. So again, and also in free agency, haven't done too much to bring free agents. Haven't tried to make big trades to bring in big time receivers, like obviously one Buffalo with Stephon Diggs, or obviously haven't had luck drafting receivers. Obviously Vikings, Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase for Cincinnati, and so on. So this year, there's definitely a lot of talent, a lot of good receivers coming out in the first round. So this could be a situation, especially if they end up doing trading Lamar, getting multiple first round picks, whoever they bring in as quarterback, they definitely have the opportunity to restart and rebuild. And this is a perfect, like I said, perfect situation to draft one. And depending on how the draft goes, they might have all the top running or wide receivers available to them. Well, they might have one or two. Again, it's who knows, but definitely the draft this year. Even if you don't get one in the first round, getting solid ones in the second, third round to really rebuild that offense, regardless if Lamar is there or not, it's definitely huge this year. So the other big thing too is the contract. That was the more controversial part. Definitely a big topic was the contract. There was speculation, there's a lot of speculation out there in discussion that Lamar wanted a Deshaun Watson type of contract. He wanted the fully guaranteed contract like that. And for this, I kind of wrote down some of the big contracts in NFL for this year. So no doubt the biggest controversial one, aside with with everything on the off the field situation, I'm not going to get into that, but was Deshaun Watson, 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed, most guaranteed money in NFL history. Definitely shocked the world. Shocked me that he even went to Cleveland, but you can see why. They way overpaid for him because they wanted to move on from Baker, and they saw this was the opportunity to get it. So number 2 was Russell Wilson, 5 years, $242 million, $161 million guaranteed. Again, got that this past offseason. Hasn't lived up to that yet. Definitely, we'll see with Sean Payton what he does with Wilson, but definitely did not work out with Nathaniel Hackett. He made, whether it was just Wilson, really starting to show his age, or Nathaniel Hackett, but he looked like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, which is pretty sad to say, hearing Russell Wilson's name as one of the worst in the NFL. So number 3 was Kyler Murray, and these aren't in order, so my bad, I should have mentioned that. These aren't in order yet. The other ones are, so I just kind of just wrote the some of them out, so they might be out of order. So for the next one I have is Kyler Murray, 5 years, $230 million, $189 fully guaranteed. Second most ever. Again, hasn't, got the big money. There was a lot of controversy. He was going to sit out before the season started. Got his money. It hasn't worked out. Cliff Kingsbury is gone. They just hired the Eagles defensive coordinator. Not sure if I really like the pick, especially, everyone got to see front and center how bad the defense was against KC. So definitely does not look like a great pick. I won't be shocked if he was gone after 2 seasons. It's just, I don't think it's going to work out. I think it's just going to be another horrible coach signing. I mean, at this point, you might as well just give Eric Bieniemy a shot. I don't know if there is something actually wrong with him because he's been with so many interviews and hasn't got a coaching job. I don't know if there is something wrong, but you might as well just give it a shot. And I definitely think this was a horrible signing. And this was his first time interviewing with the team was on Monday, and they immediately hire him later that day. So it definitely shows you how bad that organization's run. So far the first 3 contracts don't look that good for player wise. The next one, Aaron Rodgers, is iffy too. Rodgers signed a 3-year, $150 million contract, fully guaranteed. Again, had a better year overall than all of them. Almost got his team to the playoffs, but that's another discussion with the whole, in clutch situations, he kind of falls apart. So, and also rumors with him going to a different team. Obviously, one is the big one is the Jets or the Raiders. So, obviously, no doubt, if he goes to one of those teams, he makes someone a playoff contender automatically. So, definitely, in a way, more deserving of that money than probably the other 3. Yeah. So, and this one, now we're going to break it down to per year, because obviously, the biggest thing we want to figure out is what's the total contract, what's the fully guaranteed he wants, and what does he want to get per year. So the highest per year there is right now is Aaron Rodgers with $50 million. Number 2 is Russell Wilson with $48 million. Tied at 3rd and 4th is $46 million for Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. And number 5 is $45 million for Patrick Mahomes, which is right now looking like a steal. Definitely paying off that big time contract. I know it shocked everyone at first with the especially a long term deal with 10 years, but so far definitely paying that contract off, and then definitely showing that is a steal. So now we're moving on to fully guaranteed. Like I said again, Deshaun Watson had the most fully guaranteed in NFL history, $230 million. No doubt, I do believe we'll see that a fully guaranteed contract like that again sooner than later. I know some people kind of say it's like an outlier, but I do expect teams to eventually, depending on what for the quarterbacks how they do for future contracts where quarterbacks are up, that a quarterback, a player will get that type of money, no doubt, at the very least close to that. So number 2, like I said, for Kyler is $189 million. Very shocking, but it doesn't go. But for when you talk about contracts like this, it doesn't go off of basically just off of your talent. Just because you get the big contract doesn't mean you're the best player. Via Deshaun Watson, Deshaun Watson got the most guaranteed contract ever, or most guaranteed money in history, but is not the best quarterback of all time, or not all time. Sorry, best quarterback in the NFL. Same way with Kyler. Doesn't mean he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, but it's just based off of just availability. Teams know that is the most important position, so they are going to overpay for that. Number 3 is Russell Wilson, $161 million. Again, what I just said for the last two, has not shown that. 150 then for fourth and fifth, they're both tied at $150 million. Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. So, that's the guaranteed money, and then for the per year for them, and then obviously breaking down the contract. So, what do I think Lamar wants? I really do believe he wants to reset the market. So right now, the highest for per year is $50 million. I think he wants to break that, and then you're also gonna have a couple other quarterbacks. So you have Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, that are gonna be pushing that $51-52 million range. So no doubt Lamar is probably gonna also push that as well. So I do believe at the very least he's gonna go higher than Aaron. I'm gonna guess 51. That's why I kind of have here between 50 and 51, at the very least tying Rodgers with per year with that. And then for guaranteed money, again, I really do think he's going to try and push to get that, what he said, that he wants to get that Deshaun Watson type deal. And I think he might even push it even farther with that, between 230 and 255. I know that seems very outrageous, $255 million for Lamar Jackson. Again, not saying he's going to get that, or it's 100% he is. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility for in between them. Just kind of being a little safe with the number. Again, that's probably way too much. Then it is realistic. Way too much to be realistic, but just threw that out there to, just in case it can be. But I do believe he really will push that range of 230, 255, and I won't be shocked if a team gives him close to that money, because there definitely are a lot of teams that, like I said, what I said earlier, for his age and his talents, that is probably the best quarterback that's ever been available. Going back, you had Deshaun Watson. You could also argue Tom Brady, but with his age, he was up there in his 40s. If you're going overall talent wise, yes, he is. He was probably the best quarterback ever available, because he's the best quarterback of all time. But for factoring everything else in, Lamar is definitely up there. So what I think the contract will be, I kind of threw a number out there because I wasn't sure, and I was just averaging the $51 million per year, 5 years, $255 million. So that's where I got the 255 from earlier. Again, probably being way too high on that end, but I just wanted to kind of more reinstate him pushing the boundaries of being the next highest paid quarterback, or whoever. Again, we have Justin Herbert coming up. We have Joe Burrow coming up, and those two are definitely going to really push those boundaries of being the highest paid in the NFL. And no doubt in my mind, Lamar is going to do that as well. So I do think for a guarantee, or for a total contract, 5 years, $255 million isn't out of the question for guaranteed probably around what I just said, the 230 or $230 million, or making it a fully guaranteed contract. But I do think part of the biggest thing that's blocking him from getting at the very least a Watson contract is his injuries. The last 2 years he has missed 12 games, and there's a lot of concern. Is he going to be able to be available late in the season, depending on his offense? Depending on how he plays. Now that's also another discussion of whether you want us to talk about, especially when he runs a lot. Is that his choice, or is it the Greg Roman? Is that the offensive scheme, the system that they make him run a lot? You saw this, especially this year. He kind of held back on that because of not trying to hurt himself to get the money, and sadly on his end, it definitely has hurt him. I know, of course, earlier this year, I think that the Ravens offered him 170 million guaranteed, if I have that correct, and he turned that down. And of course, I think the rumor was that he wanted a Watson type deal. So again, I might be way off on the total contract, and let me know on that. This is just my guess of what I think that it could be a possibility. It could be all way less with this too, but I'm just kind of just throwing a number out there to be a little safe. I hope it's not too crazy of an estimate. So it's kind of my first time trying to do stuff like this. So I apologize if it is a little ridiculous or unrealistic for that. And I kind of was just thinking about teams that he could go to, and obviously on the right hand side, I do have what their cap spaces for this offseason. Number one, I always hear about too is Atlanta Falcons, and then the thing that comes to mind what I talked about earlier is have the next Michael Vick. Wouldn't it be for as a Falcons fan, wouldn't it be awesome that you already had Michael Vick and you have the next one, the better version of Michael Vick that people talk about? It's definitely going to cost, I think, at very least, 3 first round picks. Again, what I keep saying about for Watson, not only look at the contract, look at what they gave up for him. And I think at the very least you're going to have to get 3 first round picks for a talent like Lamar Jackson. And I definitely think Atlanta is one of those teams that I wouldn't be shocked if they would take the chance. Definitely, you bring star power there. You bring an elite quarterback to that team that I don't want to say haven't had, because they had Matt Ryan, but obviously his last few years hasn't been that elite quarterback like he was in 2016. So definitely has been a little bit since they had a quarterback in that range. But I could definitely see Atlanta being a possibility. The other one I threw out there is the Giants. And I know there's talks with Daniel Jones. They want to bring him back. But I'm not entirely. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants took a swing at him, if they really had the opportunity to get a Lamar type, Lamar Jackson as a trade possibility. Maybe they could throw in Daniel Jones as a piece into getting him. And I think with especially with Brian Dable, look at what he did with us with Josh Allen, how great offensive minded he was, the schemes he came up with for Daniel Jones. Just imagine if he had an elite talent like he did in Allen with Lamar Jackson. Now the thing of it is too is you'd have to build the offense, because the other problem is in the Giants is they don't have really great receivers, or great offensive pieces outside of Saquon Barkley, and who knows if you are going to get a Lamar Jackson type player, you're probably gonna have to let go of Saquon Barkley for money reasons. It's gonna cost you a lot, so you probably much rather get a cheaper running back via free agency or in the draft in the first round. If Bijan Robinson falls to you, that could be your Saquon replacement if you get Lamar Jackson. The other one too is Detroit, again with Jared Goff. I know they've kind of committed to him to being the team next year. They view him as potentially the future starter, but I also think that it should be a consideration, especially in an NFC like one. I didn't mention the Giants too, but in the NFC where you don't have nearly the elite teams like you do in the AFC, specifically the elite quarterbacks, it is a much easier path to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC than it is for the AFC, and no doubt, especially in the division, you have the Packers who I really believe that they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers, so they're going to be kind of a rebuilding mode. Chicago has a first overall pick, whoever they select. If they still stuck with Justin Fields, or they go with Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, whoever, they're going to be rebuilding. So it's two bad teams right then and there. I really, predicting it quickly. I mean, Chicago will probably be the fourth team in the division. Um, Packers probably be third. So your only competition is the Vikings, and people even then, even though they were great this year, they were 14-3. I believe 14-3. Yeah, even though they were or 3-14 around there. My bad. Even though they were the number 3 seed this year, a lot of people thought they were frauds, and they kind of showed that, and the Giants showed that with the less talent they do. Like you look at the Vikings, they have, or how you feel about Christian Kirk. I mean, stat wise, did pretty well. Christian Kirk, or not Christian Kirk, sorry, Kirk Cousins. You have Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, T.J. Hawkinson. They just got through it for trade. So definitely KJ Osborne is a good wide receiver. So definitely that's going to be your only competition. And I think the Lions, if they got Lamar Jackson and add a few more pieces around them, they could beat the Vikings easily and take that number 1 spot in the division and finally get the Lions back in the playoffs. And I think especially if they can help also start fixing the defense more, there's a chance they can make it. They can make a run to the Super Bowl. Not saying it's a guarantee because you have still teams like Philly, 49ers. I'm gonna throw a team out there that we all laugh at. Dallas. I know they haven't done anything for for well over almost 3 decades, but I mean you still have to throw the name out there as one. But obviously the 2 elite ones, no doubt, is gonna be Philly and the 49ers. So if Detroit really wants to take that shot, this team, they could really make this team, if they build it right around him, a Super Bowl contender, and it won't be out of the realm of they have a shot. So the third one or the fourth one is probably the one you talk about hype or like rumors more. Will probably be number 2 is the Jets. They're gonna be going after everybody. Rodgers, Lamar. I just saw one today about Tannehill. I don't buy that. I don't think they should. But Lamar would make it. Lamar again, big market, New York City. Way better pieces around him there, and I think the defense was great this year. And I think again, if you add him to that, you would make him a borderline. I don't want to say Super Bowl contender, but I think they'd be really pushing that boundary of that. Definitely a playoff contender. Again, pushing that boundary of a Super Bowl. Like I said, it won't be too crazy if you did say that, but I think for to temper expectations, definitely a guaranteed playoff team. You would be in a tough division, Bills, but obviously for us, we for our cap negative 20 million, and definitely have key pending free agents coming up with Edmonds and Poyer, so definitely might take a step back this year. And also you have Miami and the Patriots as well are definitely going to take a step up. So you're going to be entering a tough division. But I definitely do believe the Jets could be a destination. I mean, if they're trying to go after Rodgers, you're going to go after Lamar. I know this year too they're negative cap space, but for a quarterback like that, you're going to make room. You're going to make the cap space to get a guy like that. Now it might not be the contract that I projected earlier for 5 years, 255. It might be less. It might be at the very least Deshaun Watson contract or whatever. But they will do whatever it takes to get a quarterback like Lamar. I mean, look at Rodgers. Rodgers is $50 million per year. So if they're willing to do that, this isn't going to be out of the realm like what I predicted for the Jets. But definitely gonna have to make some cap space for that. And the last one too, it probably isn't going to work because of just all the big contracts they have. But it's the Miami Dolphins, and they've always been rumored the last year or so of getting Lamar. Again, for financial, for the cap wise, I don't know how you can make it fit unless you get the guys from the Rams that somehow have very little to no money, but somehow go out and sign all the top. Feel like they give out big contracts to everybody. This team would be definitely, no doubt, a Super Bowl contender. If you add Lamar Jackson with Mike McDaniels and gave him Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, running backs are in the air because Mostert is a free agent. I'm not sure about Jeff Wilson Jr. if he is one, but Kasaki is one. I'm not sure if what they're gonna do with him, but no doubt, just look at the receiver position and having that great offensive line with Terrence Armstead that they just got, having Waddle and Hill with his throwing ability, look at, back in 2019, it's going to make this team a Super Bowl contender. And I'm not going to laugh at that. They definitely will. They will contend with Kansas City or whoever is at that top spot. Defense, I mean, at this point in the NFL, it's to me, this kind of reminds me of the Big 12. I mean, it's getting to a point where it's just such heavy offensive minded. You look at the direction for head coaches. I mean, defensive coordinators are kind of becoming a thing of a past for head coaches. I mean, even if you do, now we had some, obviously, D'Amico Ryans and for the Cardinals, but I mean, unless you have defensive coordinators that really break that mold and the mindset of a typical one that you have now, things aren't going to change. Teams are going to try and go to offensive minded coaches. Teams are going to invest way more offensively to score more points and just beat you that instead of having great defenses. Obviously, one is the Kansas City. Kansas City doesn't have great pieces on defense aside from Chris Jones, Clark. But outside of that, it's just young players. It's just cheap players, and it's just you try and just build a defense with whatever is left once you're done putting all the money and investing in your offense, whatever cap you have left or whatever draft picks you have left or whatever it may be. You just have to just try and way to build the best defense possible, and the main objective now is just to outscore your team. Look at the Super Bowl, 38-35, the third highest scoring Super Bowl in history. Even like the last two highest, the second and third highest scoring games in Super Bowl history came in the last 6 years. The first one is back in 95 with the 49ers and Chargers, but outside of that, both the last two were the Eagles in 2017, where it was Eagles Patriots, and then this year with the Chiefs and Eagles. So it's you're leaning now towards a offensive minded league. Why wouldn't you take the chance on it? Definitely your window is very short. You're going to ruin your future because you're going to be in cap hell. Your draft picks, you're not going to really have much for the future to build around it. But if you're putting all your chips on the table to win, just at the very least, just win one like the Rams, this could really be an opportunity. Again, I doubt it because of the cap. I don't know how you fit it in with all the big contracts, especially with Christian. Going to next year, you're gonna have to pay Waddle. Christian Watkins is up for this is his final year, and a few others. So it's unlikely. That's why I put him at 5th, but definitely a more so a dream scenario. Definitely would scare a lot of people if Lamar landed with that team. So it's that's my list for the top 3. I really obviously most likely Atlanta. I think just overall with cap and the picks and all that and the situation, I do think this would probably be the best spot for him. I mean, of course, situation-wise, Miami would be the number 1, no doubt, but can't offer him the money. So I think overall, Atlanta could be number 1. You could switch Jets and Giants. I just viewed it more as the NFC easier path to more success, more wins for that. But definitely 1 East 5 wouldn't surprise me if they were able to get his hands on him. So, but that's my thoughts on my Lamar Jackson take on it. Definitely gonna be interesting this offseason. Of course, no doubt there's gonna be tons of rumors, especially with trade. It's definitely gonna be very interesting. I'll keep you guys posted, updated on that. Make some videos, whatever comes out, updates on that. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe if you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the video. What your thoughts on the whole Lamar situation? What would you want to change on my list? And other than that, I'll see you in the next one.